Hey guys, welcome back. Today we will be talking about cold desert climates. Now, there are two very important characteristics that I want you to remember to help distinguish cold desert climates from hot desert climates. The first one is obvious. Cold desert climates have average temperatures that are lower than hot desert climates. The second one may not be so obvious, but subsiding air masses are not the primary factor resulting in cold desert climates. You'll remember from our prior videos, we talked about the Hadley cell circulation. We talked about that subsiding air mass just around the 30-degree latitude line. That is not the primary factor for cold desert climates. Instead of subsiding air masses, we're primarily looking at four chief drivers of cold desert climates. The first driver is high latitudes. Cold desert climates are commonly found above 40 degrees latitude in both hemispheres. That lower angle of solar incidence at these latitudes results in less intense solar radiation and cooler temperatures in these areas. The second chief driver for cold desert climates is areas that are in continental interiors that are way removed from the wind coming off the coast. The third chief driver of cold desert climates is mountain barriers, like the Andes Mountains, large mountain ranges creating a rain shadow effect. So, as you'll recall, moist air masses from oceans rise up over mountain ranges and they cool and they lose moisture as they precipitate on the windward side. Now, as that air descends on the leeward side of the mountain, it becomes warmer and drier, and that creates arid conditions. There are some real world examples of this that show cold desert climates in action. You have the Patagonian Desert. The Patagonian Desert lies in the rain shadow of the Andes Mountains. You also have the Great Basin Desert. That's formed due to the Sierra Nevada and the Cascade Ranges blocking moisture from the Pacific Ocean. That results in deserts with low precipitation and unique ecological conditions on the leeward side of mountain ranges. Another chief driver, sometimes, of cold desert climate is altitude. Elevation plays a critical role because, as you'll recall, temperatures generally decrease with increasing altitude, approximately 6.5 degrees Celsius for every 1,000 meters. So that results in high altitude areas that can develop cold desert conditions even at lower latitudes. Let's talk about the temperature in cold desert climates, and I want to talk about two major fluctuations in temperature. The first one is seasonal. So, in cold desert climates, you may have warm or hot summers, but the winters are going to be cold and sometimes even can get below freezing. You might have significant fluctuations from one season to the next. So, what's causing that lower temperature in winter? Well, again, you have that higher latitude, right? So, you're receiving less solar radiation during winter months due to the tilt of the Earth's axis. And again, you have those other influencing factors that we talked about before that only exacerbate that. You have the high altitudes in some places, you have that continentality, that distance from the moderating effects of oceans that can result in colder winters. Beyond seasonal fluctuations, we also see diurnal temperature fluctuations. So, cold deserts exhibit significant temperature differences between day and night. Temperature swings can be drastic, with differences of 20 degrees Celsius even within a 24-hour period. You have daytime heating, so the solar installation, intense solar radiation during the day, heating the surface rapidly due to the low albedo of desert soils and rocks. You have a lack of vegetation, sparse plant cover, reducing shading that allows for greater surface heating. And then you have nighttime cooling, right? Clear skies facilitating the loss of heat from the surface. You have low humidity, dry air holding less heat, leading to cooler nights. Now let's turn to the precipitation patterns in cold deserts. You have low annual rainfall and snowfall. So cold deserts are defined by their aridity. They receive minimal precipitation annually, but they receive both rain, which often occurs during warmer months and is infrequent and light, and snow, which can contribute to the annual precipitation totals and influence hydrological processes in cold deserts. This precipitation can be highly variable, greatly varying from year to year, leading to periods of drought or relatively wetter conditions. It can also be spatially variable. It may be unevenly distributed across the desert due to orographic effects and localized weather patterns. Those precipitation patterns are going to have hydrological implications for societies in cold desert climates. First, limited precipitation can lead to low soil moisture content, which will affect plant growth and microbial activity. Second, streams and rivers in cold desert climates are often ephemeral, flowing only after precipitation events or during snowmelt. Third, that minimal precipitation reduces the recharge of aquifers, which can impact water availability for ecosystems and for human use. Wind also plays a significant role in shaping the climate and landscape of cold deserts. Cold deserts are often influenced by regional atmospheric circulation patterns like the westerlies and the mid latitudes. Cold deserts can experience strong winds due to the lack of vegetative cover and topographical barriers. And these winds have an effect on the landscape. Erosion transports fine particles, which leads to the formation of dunes, deposits, and desert pavements. Dust storms can carry dust and sand over long distances, affecting air quality and depositing nutrients in other ecosystems. It also impacts temperature. There's the wind chill, and winter winds can exacerbate the cold. Winds can also enhance evaporation rates, further drying the environment and increasing the aridity. Another important characteristic of a cold desert climate is the low atmospheric humidity. So, generally, the relative humidity is low, especially during the day when temperatures are higher. There's a low dew point temperatures, meaning that moisture condenses infrequently, and that reduces the opportunity for dew formation, which could benefit plants and animals. And that has implications for the weather. So that low humidity limits cloud development, and the limited cloud development contributes to clear skies and increased solar radiation during the day, which led to that diurnal fluctuation we talked about. The reduced humidity also decreases the likelihood of precipitation events. The soils in cold desert climates are often poorly developed due to the slow rate of weathering in cold, arid conditions. They're derived from underlying bedrock or unconsolidated sediments deposited by glaciers, river, or wind. They're generally low in organic matter and essential nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, which limit plant growth. Physical weathering of the soil is dominant due to temperature fluctuations that cause freeze thaw cycles, and these fracture rocks and they produce coarse textured soils. What does that mean for societies in cold desert climates? Well, soil conservation is going to be crucial because thin soils will be vulnerable to erosion and degradation from human activities. Those coarse textured soils have a low water holding capacity, which is going to make it hard when drought comes around. You also have shallower compacted soils that limit root development, and that affects plant stability, nutrient uptake, and the types of plants that you will see in cold desert climates. For your world building, the landscape that will develop in a cold desert climate is a mix of tectonic activity, the climatic conditions, and these erosional processes that we talked about. Cold deserts generally have lower plant species richness compared to more temperate regions, but they do support a variety of specialized flora adapted to unique conditions. The dominant vegetation types you're going to see are things like shrubs, grasses, some succulents, and some ephemeral plants. If you're thinking about designing plants, unique plants for your world building in cold desert climates, you need to think about how morphological, physiological, and reproductive adaptations would help cope with environmental stresses in those environments. So, for morphological adaptations, you might be talking about things like reduced leaf surface area, these plants having smaller, narrower leaves or spines that would minimize water loss through transpiration. They could have thick cuticles and waxy surfaces, so protective layers that reduce water loss and protect against wind abrasion. Deep root systems, right? Just like we had in hot desert climates that allow them to access deeper, distant water sources. They might have hairy or reflective surfaces that could reflect sunlight and reduce leaf temperature. For their physiological adaptations, you might be looking for plants with drought tolerance and ability to withstand dehydration and then resume normal function when water becomes available. Frost resistance, so maybe the production of antifreeze proteins or the accumulation of solutes to prevent cellular freezing. For reproductive strategies, you might be thinking about things like seed dormancy, so seeds remaining dormant until conditions are favorable for germination. Rapid life cycles, so ephemeral plants that grow, flower, and set seed quickly following rainfall. So, for your world building, the key takeaways on location and characteristics of cold desert climates, we're dealing with mid latitude, continental interiors, sometimes with mountain barriers, and sometimes at higher elevations. All of this resulting in low temperatures, minimal precipitation, high diurnal temperature variations, and high seasonal temperature variations. Thanks for watching. Just a reminder that every time you hit like or subscribe or you comment below, you will be taking 1 HP away from this rock troll of the YouTube algorithm.